I had to describe Ellen to someone who hadn't met her, I would say she's a person who considers the way she goes about life very carefully.
She's a very honourable person, very trustworthy. She is understated. People underestimate her, but they do that to their peril because she is someone who has an intellect like a steel trap.
She's one of the cleverest women I know, a magnificent sister-in-law and a remarkable friend. When my brother was admitted to the High Court, which was a few years after Ellen, described her as being his shining light.
When I was president of the Court of Appeal, Ellen was the next most senior judge, so whenever there was a problem, she was the person I consulted. She was not only supportive, but she was also clear, and if she thought I was wrong, she said it quite clearly. I think that's wrong. She's very much a straight shooter.
It's a career which suited her because of her strong moral and social conscience and her sense of natural justice.
The main value for a Supreme Court judge is really intellectual ability, analytical ability, and she demonstrated she had those in spades.
I've learnt from Ellen the value of hard work, but also taking time to enjoy your family and having fun. Every Christmas, for as long as I can remember, Ellen has made these customised Christmas crackers. She has added gifts, even jokes that are personalised. Everybody loves them. Yeah, I don't know how she has time to do all that amazing stuff, and it's so impressive. She really always has time for her family, and that speaks to her character.
Tonight's first award winner will receive her medallion from Annabelle Kay, currently an honours student in the Faculty of Law. Annabelle was a coach of the winning mediation team at the 2026 International Commercial Mediation Competition in Paris. She is past president of the Women in Law Club. Please welcome Annabelle and distinguished alumna, Honourable Justice Alan France.
They gave you the jazzed up Vivaldi for that one, didn't they? Yeah. It just gave it a little techno edge. Don't know what that says about you. The Honourable Justice Dame Alan France. I'm going to be very cheeky here. Is that the correct order?
Yes, I think so.
I think
the Chief Justice is here. She can...
she can correct me. Yeah. Yes, I think I've calculated that you have at least twice as many letters before your name now than you have as part of your name. So I think we can all safely agree that you're a deserving alumna. It is 20 years since the Supreme Court was established, replacing the Privy Council as New Zealand's final court of appeal. The court today considers some of the biggest questions about what makes us us. That's why we moved away from the Privy Council, right? So in the time you've been with the Supreme Court, what have you come to better appreciate about New Zealand?
Well, I think in terms of our law, I think it's based on sound principles, generally speaking. I'm not saying there aren't areas for improvement, but I think you would say we punch well above our weight in terms of our jurisprudence and so on. It's
a tricky role in that 5 justices rule over cases. There are dissenting views from time to time. How do you find that from an intellectual perspective, going into a space where you know your colleagues may disagree?
That's one of the things I've enjoyed with appellate work, both on the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. It's never ceased to amaze me. You'll have some ideas, preliminary ideas about a case, and then one of your colleagues will ask a question, and suddenly it'll be like a light bulb moment going off. Well, why didn't I think of that? So I think it's a good process for developing and deciding the law. I think we benefit from that exchange of ideas, and I think it would be a lesser system without that.
Don't you think that a genuine willingness to change one's mind is an underrated quality in this day and age?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you foster that? How do you nurture that?
I think you encourage people to listen. It's by listening to, and I think you'd find everyone on the court, the Supreme Court would say that you might have some ideas about a particular case, and then when you hear a good argument from counsel, you change your mind. You know, you can do a complete about face, if you know what I mean. But
you grew up in Northland. I haven't gone and checked it, but I can't imagine there are many Supreme Court justices who were educated at Okaiho College.
No.
Not many. Yeah. And your parents were teachers.
Yes.
So what was it about those formative years, enjoying all of the wonders that Northland has, the barefoot running around, the trips to the beach, that also managed to foster in you this passion?
We had a great childhood as we moved around quite a lot because my parents did a lot of what they used to call country service. I think in terms of what I've done subsequently, I think it gave me a better idea about the different communities that whose cases we're looking at whilst in court. We went as far afield as the Chatham Islands. My two sisters were born there. I don't have a great deal of memory about those times, but I think it all does build a better understanding and awareness of different communities, how different places operate and so on.
And how do you take that knowledge and apply it to your work today?
I guess having an open mind, I guess being conscious of the fact that you're always not the only way, and reading as widely as you can to come to grips with what it is you're dealing with.
You mentioned your parents moved around a bit. They were teachers, and you've said you're, quote, a firm believer in the importance of public service, that you want to do the job well, quote, because it affects people's lives. I'm no expert, but I feel like private practice probably pays a little bit more justice. So where does that public service conviction come from?
Well, I think my parents were exemplars of that in their teaching careers, and in the values that they instilled in us. And then having worked quite a lot in the public service, I'm a very big believer in you're there to serve in whatever way you can.
Were you tempted to go to the other side of things and go private at some point?
No.
You answered that quickly. You said that you think your parents maybe bumped you towards public service through the kind of values that they instilled in you. How did they do that?
Well, I suppose how does any parent sort of instill those values in their children? But leading by example, they were pretty selfless in the way they raised us and in the teaching work that they did.
You didn't just find an education at Waipapa Taumata. You found a husband.
Yes.
Describe to us what you and Simon, your late husband, tell us about what you were like at university.
I gave a little talk to the law school the other day as part of the alumni awards exercise, and was talking to one of my fellow law students who said, I remember the two of you sitting close together in class, although in fact we were in different streams, but because of different surnames. it was alphabetical, but we had a lot of good fun, and it was wonderful to be able to debate legal issues with someone who had a good idea about, what you were talking about.
Tell us about the debates.
Well, I would probably generally come off second best, but...
I'm not sure I believe that, yeah. Was it a common thing? I mean, it must have been a remarkable experience to have parallel careers in that sense. I think you were the first married couple to both sit as High Court justices. Simon was appointed to the Court of Appeal. So who was more valuable in indoor netball?
Well, he was a very sporty person.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But was it a common occurrence that you would debate issues around the table?
Yes, yeah. I mean, it wasn't always all law talk by any manner of means. But, and particularly because we spent quite a number of years when we were both working at Crown Law, so obviously we had a lot of discussion about cases we were working on and so on. We did appear together in one memorable case in the Court of Appeal where I just couldn't understand why it was that he was so messy in court. He was very efficient, but the books were piled up everywhere.
And you hadn't seen that before?
No.
So what did you say?
Well, just trying to keep us on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, there was hell to pay that night, I can imagine. I mean, I know it's been a couple of years now since you lost him, but how do you reflect on those decades together now with a little bit of space?
Well, I think we were both very lucky, and I like to think that by working together as we often did, we both achieved better results than we might have, on our own, as it were.
Yeah.
But I would stress, and a lot of good times. He had a great sense of humour.
Yeah. I've got to mention the firsts, because there are a lot of firsts. So you were the first woman appointed President of the Court of Appeal. You presided over the first all-female Court of Appeal bench in New Zealand history, sitting with Justice French and Justice Winkleman. Then in 2017, the Supreme Court sat as a female majority bench for the first time, believed to be the first final appellate court in the Commonwealth, possibly the world, to do so. So I managed to look it up. When you graduated from law school, about a quarter of law graduates in New Zealand were women. Today it's 2/3. And there are many people who would say that you have played a really significant role in those changing numbers. So how do you reflect on that?
Well, in thinking about that, I do think that I had the benefit of the trailblazers who went before me, and I think of Augusta Wallace, the first woman district court judge, Dame Sylvia Cartwright, first chief district court judge, Dame Shana Elias and Dame Lowell Goddard, the first women QCs, and then my current colleagues as well, the Chief Justice and Justice Glazebrook, both of whom are distinguished alumni. I think by the time I started at law school, well, as you say, women in the law, that we were no longer the exception. But I like to think that by showing that women can, as our mother always used to say, do anything, by achieving what I have done, that it is an example, and that young women will think, well, if she can do it, so can I.
We should be extraordinarily proud. Please join me in congratulating our first distinguished alumna, the Honourable Justice Dame Ellen France.
Thank you, and go that way. Yeah.